Alex is nearing hurricane strength, and that is the subject of this morning's tropical update. I'm Mike Naso from IPR365.com. Taking a look at the latest on Alex as of 5 a.m. Eastern Time, 4 a.m. Central, it was at 21.7 north, 91.9 west. Winds were up now to 70 miles per hour, so it's right on the precipice of hurricane intensity. It's moving now. It had been stationary, but it's moving north-northwest at 8. Okay, so it's moving north-northwest, that's in this direction. And currently that pressure is about 985 millibars. And it is expected to continue to strengthen and eventually bend back towards the west and make landfall. Now, we do have a hurricane warning out for areas from the Mexican coastline here all the way up to South Texas, the Baffin Bay. That includes areas like Brownsville and the Rio Grande, Matamoros, Mexico. And basically the thinking is that the hurricane will begin that westward motion and more so on Wednesday and strengthen all day Wednesday into Wednesday night and make landfall probably around midnight 1 a.m. Thursday. But again, if it moves on the southern end of this track, which is probably less likely, it would make landfall earlier, probably Wednesday night. If it takes the northern edge, which is more likely than the southern, it would make landfall later, probably Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening in Texas. And right now the thinking was generally in the middle of that, but again, you cannot focus on this because this is rather broad for a system so close to land to still have the potential to hit anywhere from the middle of Mexico all the way up to Corpus Christi, Texas. That is rather broad for a system this close to landfall. So that means there is uncertainty in the track, and right now that uncertainty stems from the model guidance, which a lot of it's taking it pretty much straight to the west. In fact, the consensus would be that. However, the Hurricane Center track is up here further north because they feel that the general indications, which I'll show you on satellite in just a minute, are indicating this system's current motion, which is this line here, could continue for a good 12 hours or so before that turn occurs, which is why their track is further north. However, I mean, if it speeds up and keeps this motion, the more latitude it gains, the better the chance to hit Texas. 7 years ago in 2003, Hurricane Claudette was forecast to hit generally in the same region as Alex is forecast to hit, and it kept reforming further north and further north, so by the time it did get pushed back west, it was into Port O'Connor, Texas. And Hurricane Brett in 99 was expected to turn into Mexico as a minimal hurricane, and instead just kept gaining latitude and became a Category 4 and hit Texas as a major hurricane. So anytime you're dealing with these storms that are moving northward and are expected to turn west, how much latitude they gain is critical as to whether or not this is a Mexican storm or a Texan storm. Right now, it's too early to say, but anybody in the hurricane warning area, you need to be prepared for the worst because this is expected to become a dangerous hurricane of at least 100 miles per hour. Again, there's the satellite imagery, and it was looking ragged on the earlier frames. You could see the northwest side was completely blown out. Still having a little bit of trouble here, but blowing up good around the center. Has formed a good inner core. It's becoming vertically aligned, which basically means that this system is on its way to hurricane strength, continuing that motion again in this general direction. And if it keeps that up, eventually that westward turn, it's going to be a very close call between Mexico and Texas. And so we're going to have to watch that very, very carefully. There's another look at Alex as it continues to spin. Note the beautiful symmetry with it, that the flow all around it is looking very, very favorable. You can see right there the outflow just streaming down southward into the southern hemisphere, and that's helping this system along too as you get that organization with the tropical storm at this time. Again, you can see that CDO popping up there. That's the central dense overcast, and that is a sign of development. So this system is on its way to hurricane status as it continues that motion in the western Gulf of Mexico. Now, the computer models I showed you, I want to go a little bit more in depth on those. The GFDL model makes it a potent hurricane of about 90 miles an hour and brings it inland here in northern Mexico, a good bit away from Texas. We wouldn't have to worry about it in Texas if the GFDL pans out. And the HWRF is a little slower, but brings it in as a strong tropical storm into South Texas near Brownsville, and so we'd have to see if that pans out. This is the type of difference we're talking about between the two, and neither model makes the system a powerful hurricane, which is interesting considering Alex is almost a hurricane already. That's definitely something that's we're trying to figure out. Everybody's thinking what's going on with those two models. Now, the overall setup that's causing the motion of Alex, you can see the elongation of the storm here in this north-south direction. And a lot of times what these systems will do is their clouds will kind of give you an indication of where the upper level winds want to take the storm. And right now, that's to the north-northwest. And that's why it's not out of the realm of possibility that by this evening the system could just be starting to move from north-northwest to northwest. And that means it could have been gaining latitude all day long, which increases the risk for the United States. Now, what do we have going on? We got this upper level low here that's been around for several days, ever since shearing Invest 94L, and that's only helping to provide a little bit of a vent here to Alex for the outflow, kind of a vacuum to help the ventilation. And we had the trough sweep through, and you can see that there is a little patch of dry air here, but notice how the system's kind of getting tugged on. Well, we're eventually going to have the ridge of high pressure build back in, and that ridge of high pressure is expected to build back in enough to where Alex will be able to take that turn back to the west into Mexico or Texas. The whole key is how much does it rebuild, how soon. If this thing doesn't rebuild fast enough, Alex could end up much further north. If it rebuilds strong, Alex could even take a little southwest dive at landfall. That's the unknown right now with this storm. We just don't know what's going to happen with it, and that really was kind of scary considering we're this close to landfall. Intensity-wise, Alex shouldn't have a problem. You can see the anticyclone here sitting over the area of Mexico. That's creating wind shear about 5 to 10 knots. That's not unfavorable for development, and the system should carry a favorable environment along with it until landfall, wherever landfall might be. So the only thing we think of next, sea surface temperatures. You can see they only get warmer out here as you get closer and closer in towards the northwest Gulf, and so Alex is moving from the cooler sea surface temperatures only into the hotter ones, and there's even an eddy of warm water which is right in its path, potentially, that could crank Alex up even more. That's why we're going to have to watch this so carefully. Now, for folks in Texas right now in northern Mexico, you don't have much going on, but you could see the outer rain bands from Alex coming on into view. There's a good rain band, and this should be impacting over the coming 24-hour period as winds will get stronger, because this is expected to be and is already a large tropical cyclone, but as it makes landfall, whether that's down here or up here, it is expected to be a large hurricane, not only a large one, but a powerful one, at least a Category 2, which is capable of quite a bit of damage. So in the final analysis on Alex, Alex is strengthening almost a hurricane, expected to continue that north-northwest motion, then northwest, then west-northwest, into landfall in northern Mexico, potentially South Texas. It's too early to say, but you're in a hurricane warning all the way from Baffin Bay down the coastline towards Tampico, not quite to Tampico, Mexico, but most of northeastern Mexico is under the hurricane warning. And anybody within that warning and anybody within the cone, you need to be prepared for what will likely be a significant hurricane making landfall about, I'd say, 36, 48, 50 hours from now, depending. So right now, that's the only game in town in the Atlantic as we continue to monitor Tropical Storm Alex. I'm Mike Naso from IPR. I'll see you next time.